Yo, what is up? It is your boy Zither, back with the finale to What If Deku had Panther Sage Mode. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for me to drop another part on this, and I know that it was gone for a little while, but that is why I'm going to be giving you guys the finale to it. I know a lot of you guys have been wanting this series to come back. You guys have been wanting me to drop the next part, and because I was gone for so long, you know what I decided? I'm gonna end the entire series off in one video with a really nice bow on top to make you guys have a little bit of, a little bit of a good feeling after having it be gone in the 5 days. And that time I probably would have finished it with like 2 more parts, but instead of that, I'm gonna be giving you guys one long one, and I hope you guys enjoy this as always. But before that, let's go ahead and get into the recap and then get started. Okay guys, so on the last part we had essentially left off with Deku and Momo basically meeting each other a little more. They got to know each other. Deku and Momo, they started developing a little bit of relationship as well as feelings for each other. They also did the heroes versus villains training, as well as did the they did the USJ. They had just had that finished with everything actually going a lot different than it would have been canon, with Deku actually sensing that there was actually multiple villains in there. So he actually ended up telling Aizawa, and they actually got some reinforcements to help them out. So that being said, they actually had it pretty easy. That being said, we're going to go ahead and get right into the 1 week break, and that shouldn't actually just be everything in terms of the What If Deku had Panther Sage mode. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so as soon as the 2 week break starts, Deku and Momo decide that, they're going to train together for the 2 weeks. Now, Deku can, he definitely likes Momo a lot, and he definitely sees a lot of potential in her, but he can also see all of the flaws that come with her because, as great as a hero as she is and as smart as she is, she doesn't live up to it in terms of she doubts herself in moments that, she should not have any second thoughts. She doesn't believe that she's good enough for some reason. And that actually ticks Deku off because Deku thinks that is something that she should have gotten over a long time ago, being that she is extremely impressive. She has an extremely versatile quirk. And I mean, it's just one of those things that you're not going to find anywhere else. Her quirk is insanely incredible. So Deku decides that he's actually going to focus on Momo a lot. He's definitely going to help her out in terms of developing herself as a hero, as well as developing her quirk a lot more, because that's the type of help that Momo needs. She needs somebody to help her develop herself. She needs to gain that confidence, just like we saw in the final exams when she was with Todoroki. She needed that. So during these 2 weeks, Deku is going to hammer that into her soul pretty much, and he is not going to rest until she has it over. So during that time, he's actually going to help her get into combat training, so she's going to be more confident in terms of, fighting. He's also going to tell her that she needs to be way quicker in terms of creating things, that she needs to focus a lot more on that, and, have food on her at all times, because it's the lipids in her body. So he actually really is gonna hammer down on her, all of the flaws as well as all of the good things, and help her focus on them to make them even better. So during the 2 weeks, Deku definitely helped Momo improve, and in every way you could possibly think of. Deku essentially created a brand new, more brighter, better Momo. So we got a little bit of a character development for her in this time. So they return to school, and when they do this, they're actually told by Aizawa that they're actually going to be having the UA Sports Festival pretty soon. As Deku and Momo look, and they're like, oh, we have 2 days until that starts, right? As Aizawa tells them that's true. As Deku would say that, you know what, Momo? I think we should celebrate. I mean, you have came a long way in the 2 weeks, so how about this? Me and you go to the park and, get some ice cream. She's like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. As, Deku's like, yeah, I've been saving up a little bit, and I actually did get some money the other day. I saved some old lady getting kidnapped, and she actually offered to pay me. And Deku actually, he being nice, he still decided to accept it though, because he wants to do something for Momos, and she's been paying for everything. And Deku really does feel bad for that, because it's not because oh, he's the guy, he should be paying. It's not that stereotype. It's more along the lines of he feels bad that he can't contribute. So during this time, Deku's actually going to be telling her that he can actually treat her to some ice cream today, as Momo's actually pretty excited for that. So they train one day, and the very last day that they have before the USJ, they just relax and unwind. Deku and Momo just decide to have a pretty cool and chill day. So in terms of that, they, have a pretty amazing day together. So Deku and Momo proceed to go out and get the ice cream, like I'd already said. And this is when Deku and Momo will proceed to just be chilling. They'll be hanging out together and stuff. And we're gonna go ahead and get into the UA festival. So Deku, Momo, and the rest of Class 1A would actually arrive. And when they do, they would actually see that Deku would actually be told by midnight that, he's going to be having to give the speech, as Deku would look at her and be like, okay, I get it. As he would proceed to give a pretty inspirational speech, telling everybody that instead of trying to aim for the best that they can do, they should all aim for number one, because if they can't aim for that, then what are they doing here? They came here to prove something. And this is one of the 3 opportunities that they have, so they need to do their best and go beyond plus ultra. As everybody in the stands would just be like, Deku, Deku. Everybody would actually be extremely hyped for Deku, since his words actually motivated a lot of the 1B students as well as 1A students, definitely helping them, decide that they're not going to half-ass it for once. They're going to try their best, and they're definitely not going to, do things the way that they would have in canon. So in this version, we're going to have a lot more like aggressive and like more I'm gonna do my best people, so that's definitely gonna help in the long run. That being said though, guys, we're gonna go ahead and jump straight into the race. The race. So as soon as the race is announced, Deku would proceed to essentially just speed blitz it, as Deku would have essentially 0 difficulties in terms of the race. So Deku would just go by it, and he would essentially just speed blitz straight to the finish line. I see nobody getting in his way at all, so that's what we're gonna go ahead and do. Momo would actually do very well in this version, since she would actually create some jet propulsors for her feet, and she would actually use them in a sort of like Mei Hatsume type of fashion. She didn't invent them, but she just took a random design. So that's what she made. And after that, she ended up getting about say 6th place. Yeah, she ended up getting about 6th place. So as soon as the cavalry battle started, Deku would actually instantly go to ask Momo if she was down to actually do be on the team with Deku, as she would say that of course she was, as Deku would then ask Tokiyami if he would actually want to be on his team, as Tokiyami would ask what his plan is, as Deku would say that he's gonna do something that not a lot of people will be expecting. As Tokiyami will say that he's in, and Deku will then say that these are all the members on his team. As midnight, I'm not gonna lie, guys, I had to go stop some background noise that was going on, and I kind of lost my train of thoughts. But that being said, I'm just gonna get right back in and just jump straight into the cavalry battle. So that would essentially be the team, and Deku would ask Midnight if he could go in with 3 people, as he would say that his other member is actually coming right now, as he would begin to summon Sedilus, as the giant dark panther would appear, as everybody in the stands is just like, what is this? As Deku would ask him if he could shrink down to a proportionate size, as he would become a little smaller, as Deku, Momo, and Tokiyami would get on top, as Deku would tell him that they're in the middle of a cavalry battle where they all essentially just need to try to stay away from everybody, as Sedilus would understand, and he would have his aura just blast off of himself for the entirety of the 5 minutes. As for those 5 minutes, they would be pretty much untouchable, as they would breeze through the cavalry battle. And we're going to go ahead and jump straight into the battles. So, like in canon, Ojiro and the rest of them would actually quit, and Ojiro would actually warn Deku, since he's going to be fighting against Shinso soon, about his thing. And when he does that, Deku actually smiles and thanks him, taking that into account a lot. So as soon as the match with Shinso starts, Deku would not be playing games, he would not be letting anything happen, and he would not let Shinso even use his unpredictable quirk. So Deku would instantly blitz at Shinso and knock him out of the arena, as Shinso would get angered by the fact that this is it. He's not going to get into the, the hero course like this, as, Deku would have won, and he would begin to cheer, as he would then, begin to talk to Todoroki, as Todoroki would proceed to say that, he's going to defeat him, and that there's nothing he can do for him. Like, there's nothing he can do about it, because his quirk is powerful. As Deku would be in a laugh and say that it's whatever, it's cool that he has all that confidence. And then he then smirks and says, but you're going to have to back it up as well. As Todoroki would be like, as Deku would go to Momo and wish her good luck for her fight against Bakugo, as it would be her and him. So Momo would actually end up, doing pretty decent against Bakugo. She ends up doing pretty well, and Bakugo still ends up winning. He still goes off because he believes in equality. So Momo still gets her ass beat, but there's a little some that came out good from it. Momo got a little bit of experience, and she definitely saw that she's definitely gone stronger since. If she would have gone into that fight before, she would have stood no chance at all. And she's kind of proud of herself for what she did. So, Deku doesn't actually get angry at Bakugo. I mean, he is a little irritated that Bakugo hurt him, but this is not something that he's going to be able to always avoid. So, Momo has to get used to, stuff like this. So, we're going to go ahead and jump into Deku versus Todoroki. As soon as the match starts, Deku would turn into a shadow, and all of Todoroki's ice attacks would not do anything, as Deku would just be running around Todoroki, just playing games with him, essentially, as he's just mocking Todoroki, telling him to use all of his power, as Todoroki would be like, I'm never gonna use my fire side. As we're gonna go ahead and jump into a different thing that happens this time. Instead of Deku being like, I'm gonna break every bone in my body to save you, instead he says, I'm gonna break every bone in your body until you realize it. So Deku would proceed to go in there and beat the shit out of Todoroki. I mean, he would beat this man, and Todoroki would have to the point where Todoroki would have to activate his fire to survive. So this is when we have Todoroki using that attack that he did in canon, but Deku would turn into a shadow and immediately dodge it, as he then takes down Todoroki before he can even use the attack, declaring himself as the winner. And then as soon as he needed to fight Bakugo, that is actually going to go a lot different than what you guys would probably expect. As soon as it's announced that it's going to be Deku versus Bakugo, Deku would smile, as Bakugo is just thinking that he's going to crush this bastard who never should have made it to UA in the first place. As soon as Deku walks up to the stand, Bakugo bumps him in the shoulder, as he then says, stay out of my way, Deku. As Bakugo makes it up to the stand, and when they're there, Deku asks, why are you like this, Kachan? Like, what happened? What did I ever do to you to make you this angry at me? As Bakugo would say that he wouldn't understand that he was the best before Deku came around, and now everything changed. As he would proceed to give a speech and yell at Izuku, as he then says, I was supposed to be number one, but then you came around out of nowhere seemingly and took all the shine. As Deku would realize why Bakugo's angry, but then Deku would say that that's not a good excuse for the way that he's been acting. So Deku's gonna have to put Bakugo in his place. As soon as the match starts, Deku would blitz at Bakugo and begin to body mans. He would do exactly what he had done to Todoroki and give him that treatment, of equality. If you want to talk like that, you better be ready to back it up. So Deku would massacre Bakugo in the shortest way possible. And that would essentially end off the entirety of the UA Sports Festival. Deku would get first, Bakugo second, and Todoroki third. And now we're going to go ahead and jump in back to their class, as everybody would be in class, and this time Deku would actually pick the hero name of Black Panther, as that's going to be his hero name, and everybody else would pick what they had done in canon. Now, as for Bakugo, after the incident with the UA Sports Festival, Bakugo would feel like there's nothing he could do to catch up or close the gap between the villains. I mean, between he and Deku, as Bakugo would decide that, if he can't close it the normal way, he's gonna have to find some way to close the gap. As Deku or Bakugo would begin to do research online, looking up if there's any way to amplify your quirk, any way to get other quirks, any way to increase your strength in the quickest way possible, as Deku would come across the quirk enhancement bullets. Bakugo would come across quirk enhancement bullets, as well as All for One. He would realize who One for All is after, or All for One, who All for One is after doing some very intense research on it for the 2 days that they have before returning to school. So Bakugo would have essentially found out, their places. He would go to one of the meetups, or their recruitments, I guess you could say. As Bakugo would be there, as Dabi's just sitting there, as he burned everybody, as Bakugo walks in there not even fazed by anything. As Bakugo says that he wants to join, as Dabi would say that, what's quirk? As Bakugo would say, my quirk is explosions. I'm a UA member. As, oh wait, no, Dabi's not even a part of it yet. I'm so dumb. Okay, who should we have do this? We're gonna have retcon everything that I just said with Bakugo appearing. Bakugo would appear at the League of Villains base, willingly, as Shigaraki would smile, thinking that now he doesn't even have to go through the trouble of recruiting this kid, as he's smiling, thinking that this is amazing. So he would then proceed to talk to Shigaraki, as during this time, Shigaraki would have, instead of letting Ida get killed or, injured or paralyzed by Stain, this time, Shigaraki would have actually approached Stain much sooner. And this time, he would have actually appealed to his desire to get rid of all of the fake heroes. So Shigaraki would have told Stain that in this version, Shigaraki is going to be a lot smarter and tactical. So he knows that he's going to need Stain for the big goals. So he tells Stain that if he's willing to help him, he'll help him achieve his goals. He's going to let him do whatever he wants on the side, but he needs to be a part of the League of Villains. Stain would see this as a win-win scenario, taking out more villains that are fakes, as well as getting some, members from the League of Villains to help out for the cause. It's perfect. So, in this version of events, Stain doesn't actually go out and kill Tenya's or injure Tenya's brother. As, Ida doesn't decide to go over there, and we're going to have a little bit of a different scenario go down. As Bakugo would approach the base, he would see Stain, as Stain is looking at him, as Stain would rush at him with his two swords, as Bakugo would blast an explosion in Stain's face, blowing him away, as he would then say, "I'm not here to try to stop you bastards, I'm here to talk to the boss guy." As he would then meet Shigaraki, and this is when Shigaraki would realize that he didn't even have to approach, Bakugo. So, during this time, Bakugo would decide that, he wants to join the villains. As Shigaraki would ask him if he's really, serious about this. So he would tell Bakugo that he has to prove it. As he would tell Bakugo to go outside and kill an innocent person in the alleyway. As Bakugo would step outside and wait for about 30 minutes until some random guy passes by. As Bakugo would then shoot an explosion at his face, melting it off as the person just dies from flesh exposure, or I guess you could say blood loss, as Bakugo had just killed his first person and gotten a taste for blood. So there's no going back from this. So now we're going to go ahead and jump straight into them returning to school after the 2 days, as Bakugo was actually accepted by Shigaraki, and Stain, he actually told Stain to train Bakugo so that he wouldn't be such a weakling. As Bakugo was smiling, thinking that he's finally going to get closer to power. As Stain would actually see that desire, that fire, that drive in Bakugo's eyes, that he doesn't see in normal people. He only sees in people like himself who have true determination and goals. Maybe they're not the best, but they are unwilling and unrelenting goals. So Stain would proceed to train Bakugo, taking a liking towards Bakugo's unwillingness to give up on what he wants. As Bakugo would tell Stain about how the type of person that Deku is, telling him fake lies, fake stories about the things that Deku does, and how he just came back after, receiving a quirk and going off somewhere. Stain just realizes that he must be a fake hero. So Stain would be under the impression that Izuku's a fake hero and that he must be taken down at all costs. So he helps Bakugo with his cause. So he's going to help him out that one day. So they return to school, they pick their hero names, and they decide on who they're going to intern with. Nobody would actually end up going with Gran Torino. I mean Mirio would, I guess, if they have that at the moment. But I'm pretty sure they don't, so that doesn't happen at the moment. So Deku would actually essentially just go with Edgeshot for his internship and have a decently average one. He would go on patrols as well as learn a couple of things from Edgeshot himself, since Deku actually thinks that Edgeshot is pretty cool, since his power kind of reminds him of his ability to become a shadow and just become intangible. So it's pretty cool for him to, go internship with Edgeshot. So the Hosu incident never actually ends up happening, meaning that no Stain, no Ida, and after the training, Bakugo would have actually just not even gone with any heroes. What Bakugo would have had done is essentially ask Nezu if he could train on his own, as he would tell Nezu that, after losing to Deku, he has a new goal and that he doesn't want to waste his time on hero patrolling or learning how to, talk to people. He wants to become powerful so that he can stand a chance and be a better hero, as he would just put on a fake act that Nezu just totally fell for. So a lot of people, you may be wondering, what? Nezu would have never fallen for that, but Bakugo pretty much sold it. So Deku would proceed to, do the rescue training races. He would win it instantly, blitzing through there. And afterwards, they would actually be told about their final exams, as they're going to be having to fight the teachers as well as taking the written exams. So Deku and Momo would actually study up for the next week, as Deku and Momo do a lot of... They would do a lot of studying, if you get me, a lot of studying. I don't know if you can hear me, but they're doing a lot of studying. As you know, they're definitely studying a bit, you know. As Deku would actually also train Momo, and they would go out on a couple dates, as well as Momo tutoring Deku so he can actually pass with even more ease. She would train him in his, being smarter, as Deku would train her in her physical combat abilities. So the day arrives as Deku Momo would actually completely ace their exams. And in terms of the battle against All Might with Bakugo puts on a sort of facade, and he actually decides that he wants to get on Deku's good side so that once what he has planned comes to pass, Deku won't know what hit him. So Bakugo proceeds to fake being good with Deku, as Bakugo would proceed to work together well with Deku, as Deku thinks that they're actually a pretty good team, as they would have actually taken out All Might since Deku was more of a distraction, as Bakugo rushed in there with a howitzer impact and an AP shot straight at All Might's leg, hindering his movement speed. So after that, they ended up rushing out and they won. So after this, they would actually be informed about the forest training arc and how they're going to be going in about 1 week. So Bakugo would actually have about 1 week to train before the forest training arc. And during this time, Shigaraki and Bakugo would have a lot of development. The rest of the students would just be going through normal days, but after school, Deku would always report to the League of Villains base, as he would go train with Stain, and on the 3rd day, All For One would actually finally get to meet this new recruit, Bakugo Katsuki, as he would then introduce himself, and All For One would actually take a good liking to Bakugo, as he would then ask Bakugo if he wants another quirk, as Bakugo would say that he would love another one, as Bakugo would get fire manipulation, regeneration, super speed, and super strength, giving him way more of an edge than what he ever needed. But he then told All For One that this is not what he wants. He needs speed. He needs pure speed to be able to keep up with that bastard. As All For One would give him the fastest, or a very fast quirk that he has for speed based. As Bakugo would be smiling, thinking that with Stain's training and all these extra quirks, he may just be able to pull it off. As he's thinking that this was definitely worth it. As he would then proceed to tell the villains about the force training arc and, inform them about everything, telling them all that this would be the smartest chance of attack. As he would have talked to Shigaraki about it, and Shigaraki, actually being smarter in this version, would decide that this is going to be the night that they have an all-out brawl, an all-out battle that decides everything. So, in this version of events, the force training arc is going to get a little dark really fast. On the villain side, they would actually be training their members, and Shigaraki would actually go through with getting a couple more quirks, and since he's smarter, he wouldn't necessarily have that hindrance that he did in the original version of the My Hero story. In this version, Shigaraki actually ends up fighting the Liberation Army a lot sooner, and he actually, unlocks his hidden potential and stops being hindered by the hands. So we get a much likable, way more of a likable Shigaraki way sooner than in canon. And now we're going to go ahead and jump over to the day where they're on the bus going to the forest training arc. So they're there just playing truth or dare, as everybody's just messing around, just having a good time, as Bakugo is just there being quiet. As they would arrive, as Deku would notice that's a little bit off that Bakugo's been like this. As Sage Mode can sense negative emotions. He can sense a lot of negativity coming from Bakugo, but Deku just decides to let it slide. He's always kind of been like that, but it was a little darker than what he was used to, so Deku just keeps a little bit of an eye on Bakugo. That being said, they get there, they get thrown, and everything essentially goes to canon, with everybody making it there about 1 hour sooner, since Deku's not a dickhead, so he stayed with them and helped them make it even faster than in canon. So they arrive, and Koda actually ends up trying to punch Deku's balls, but before it can, he turns into a shadow, so Koda just goes straight through him and falls. That being said, they're then training they then proceed to eat and go to the hot springs. And when they're in the hot springs, Mineta would do his usual stick. Deku would find out about Mineta, and now we're going to jump to the next day. So the next day would roll around as everybody's actually going to go crazy in terms of training this time. Deku would actually be helping the teachers out, telling them that they need to train them as hard as possible, that there's no time for games, they only have 3 years, as Aizawa would agree, and Deku would decide that he's going to actually be helping everybody in terms of training. He also wants to do a lot of combat battle, a lot of, combat practice, so he actually ends up fighting against the entirety of Class 1A, as they're all just focusing on trying to hit him once, if anything, as Deku also has Aizawa jump in the mix, and he still can't do anything. So, that day is extremely tiring for Deku and the rest of the students, so we're going to go ahead and cut to the nighttime. At this point, Deku was definitely extremely tired, as that would have taken a big toll on Deku's body, since, that would have definitely, hindered him a bit. As Bakugo was smiling, he was saving his energy, he was preserving himself for something that he was waiting for. So, we're gonna go ahead and jump straight into when the action starts. Later on in the night, when they would be playing their hide-and-go-seek game, I believe it was, a blue fire would emerge as many villains. I'm not talking just the normal ones. I'm talking multiple villains. Stain, Twice, Dabi, Toga, all of them would appear, as, Stain's message would have gone out in a different way this time, with League of Villains uploading a video and telling everybody to join them, as people would begin to look for the League of Villains, as those people would begin to join them. So we're going to have all of those people in the original canon join, as well as some new ones, Muscular, Mustard, anybody who you guys can think of, Moonfish. All of them arrive with like 200 extra throwaway villains, just there for, to be taken out swiftly. So at this point, Deku would be with Koda, just talking about things, telling him that, he understands what Koda feels. He lost his parents as well, as the giant behemoth of a man, Muscular, would appear and throw a giant fist at Deku, as he then says, "Wait, I gotta ask you something." As Deku would then say, "What the hell?" As he would then jump back with Koda, as Muscular then says, "Do you know about this kid called Tokiyami?" As Deku would say, "Tokiyami? What about him?" As they actually want to recruit Tokiyami. So Deku and Muscular fight would commence, as Deku would proceed to just try to fight off Muscular, but his body, his muscle manipulation is just way too much for Deku. He can just outspeed Muscular and just keep beating on him, but he can tell that it's going to take a lot of him for, Muscular to be taken down, since he pretty much has shock absorption. So Deku charges up one of the biggest attacks that he has, the Panther kick, as Deku has a giant aura of a panther, as the electricity crackles off of him, as Deku would proceed to essentially kick Muscular with a Hirodora, essentially, but with like black lightning and being Black Panther Sage mode, as Muscular gets taken out relatively easy. As Deku would take Koda away, as he's halfway there to Aizawa, Bakugo would rush in and say, "Deku, I'll help you out," as he was still holding that facade up. As Deku says, "Thank you, I gotta," as he turns and Bakugo then shoots an explosion full powered straight at Deku's face, sending him flying away. As Deku would feel it a lot. The impact was way more powerful than what he was expecting. As Bakugo would then say, "You like that? It's part of my new quirk. I'm even stronger than I was before. And this time, I'm gonna be the best, Deku. You're not winning anymore." As Deku would say, What are you talking about?" As Bakugo would explain everything, his plan, how he's, betrayed the hero, as he told about the villains, everything that he did. As Deku would just be like, I knew you were struggling, but to turn to the villains, that's insane." As Bakugo would just laugh and say, "It's not insane, Deku. It was what had to be done." As Deku and Bakugo would look at each other, as Deku says that he doesn't want to have to do this, but he has to do what he must. So Deku and Bakugo would get into a brawl. This time Deku would only use about 50%, as Bakugo would just be blitzing around Deku at speeds that Deku didn't even know Bakugo had, as Bakugo's going all out, controlling flames around, the blue flames that Dabi exerted, as he would use those to his advantage, creating more of a sort of box for Deku and Bakugo to be trapped inside of, as Deku and Bakugo are just going at it relentlessly, as nobody's giving in or giving up, as Deku tries to speed blitz Bakugo, but Bakugo would turn around and dodge it, having a sort of sensory quirk, as he dodges the blow, as he then grabs Deku's hand and he begins to burn it to a crisp, as one of Deku's hands gets burnt pretty badly. As Deku then realizes that Bakugo was way more of a bigger threat than what he thought, so Deku and Bakugo get into a really heated battle that lasts about 10 minutes, as none of them is giving up. Not one or the other is showing any signs of slowing down, so we're getting into a very extremely high battle, as there's giant explosions raging everywhere, as the rest of the students are trying their best to fend off as many villains as they can, but it's just too much. And with Stain running around, he ends up killing Mandalay and the pretty pussy, I don't even know what they're called, but the pussycat heroes, right? as Stain would have actually ended up killing them. So we're gonna go ahead and cut to after everybody's counting their losses. It would be nothing but the students, Aizawa, and the blood hero, whoever the hell his name is. Dang, bruh, what you gotta make all that noise for? They don't like it. Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and jump straight back into the battle. So Deku and Bakugo would be going at it, none of them giving up. As Momo would run around the corner saying, "Deku, are you?" As she was actually in a different area. That meaning that kid with the chip, he dies to the gnome. And Momo would rush in there. As Bakugo would see Momo and say, "This is perfect. Now I get to take something away from you. You took away my rightful place as the best. Now I'm gonna take away the thing that you love the most." As Bakugo would shoot a full-powered explosion as Momo, as she then gets blown back and just gets knocked out unconscious. Deku rushes at her to try to touch her, but Bakugo just keeps Deku away from her. As Bakugo and Deku keep fighting, as Deku's just like, "You, as he then begins to get enraged, as the energy just begins to blast off of Deku as he just loses his sense of himself. As Deku would proceed to just go in crazy, as Bakugo and Deku would have an extremely heated battle where Deku is definitely in first place. It would be kind of like Goku versus Frieza, in terms of how it's going. As Deku would land a decisive blow and tell Bakugo that he doesn't want to hand him, but if he has to, he will, because he can see the hate in Bakugo's eyes. He's not turning back anymore. As Bakugo would then say, "Kill me, fucking bastard. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Even if you don't kill me, I'll just rot in prison anyways." As Bakugo says, "Do it! Kill me! Or I'll kill everybody here, including your precious Momo." As Deku would just be like, as Koda would say, Don't kill him. You'll be just like him." As Deku looks at Koda and just has his eyes completely black, as Deku just looks at his direction as he then passes out, as Bakugo just falls from energy exertion with Deku passing out. This means that all the rest of the battles, in terms of Shigaraki and the rest of them, would have definitely gotten passed out. After about 1 minute, Koda would proceed to shake Deku, telling him that he has to get up. A lot of people are dying at the moment. They're losing people. As Deku would realize what's going on, as he would say that not on his watch. As he would proceed to get up, and he would kind of stumble a little bit, as he would then say, "I have to take the rest of them out." As Aizawa and the rest of the students would have definitely taken out a couple of the villains, but many of the main ones were still around, that being Dabi and Shigaraki, as well as Stain. They were still, running around going crazy. So this is when Deku would speed blitz over there in a very hurt position. So Deku would be nothing close to what he was when he took out Bakugo. As soon as Deku would rush in there, Shigaraki would notice him, as he would say, "It's you." As they would get into a battle, as Stain sees him and says, "That's the kid." As he would then proceed to rush at Deku, as Deku would say, "What the hell?" As he's having a very hard time fighting off against Shigaraki, Stain, and Dabi, who's throwing flames at him. Stain is throwing knives at him, and Shigaraki, who he just can't let be touched by. So we're having a very intense battle. But as things is going on, Deku proceeds to save people and get them out of the way, showing signs of true heroism. As Stain sees this, he can tell that Deku is nothing like what Bakugo had described. Stain is watching Deku's movements very closely, and he had actually stopped, attacking at Deku vigorously as before. As Stain would then realize that Bakugo was in the wrong. It's not Deku who was the evil one. He was the fake hero. As he would then turn against Dabi, as he would slice Dabi's head straight off of his shoulders, as Dabi would die. As Shigaraki would see this and touch Stain, killing him instantly. As Stain's last words would be, "Survive, kid, become a true," as he would die immediately. Now this is when Deku would see this and see that villain had sacrificed himself and basically helped Deku in a way that he would have never imagined. If it wasn't for Stain, Deku would have surely died there. As Deku would just have a push. He would push himself beyond his limitations, going plus ultra, as he would then proceed to body at Shigaraki. He would reach a power that he never knew before, as he would then proceed to turn himself into a shadow, as he then hits Shigaraki, taking him out immediately. His regeneration couldn't heal him fast enough, as Deku would proceed to have to kill Shigaraki. there wouldn't be no knocking him out. His regeneration could just bring him back, and the problem would never end. So Deku would have to do what he had to, as he would then kill Shigaraki, and this would end the tragic forest training arc. A couple of the students would have actually ended up dying, more along the sides of the weaker ones, like Koda, Invisible Girl, you know, let's say Oger, Dupli Arms actually ended up dying, Naval Laser, and you know, they're the ones who had actually ended up dying, as well as Mineta. They would have actually ended up dying in this attack. Now, in terms of what happens after this, the hero, you know, school known as UA would have had a lot of trouble coming at them, but they would have stayed strong, and they would have said that it wasn't their fault, as one of their students had actually gone rogue. But Deku would advise everybody not to tell anybody, because if they did, then they would have no chance to return as a school as they once were. So during this time, UA would actually get shut down for about 6 months, as while this is happening, they would have gone on to earn their provisional heroes during this time. And since there's no Deku, Miria would have had to take out Overhaul, as UA gets reinstated again, and they switch their principal, this time making the principal be All Might, with All Might staying the symbol of peace, not being damaged. Everything would change a little bit. So our story would end off on a little bit of a sadder note, since a couple of our favorite heroes actually ended up dying, but luckily it wasn't nobody who too many people cared about. So League of Villains were actually handled way quicker. Stain, Dobby, meaning none of the events that happened later on would actually end up happening, and this would mean that Deku would actually have a pretty easy track onto becoming a hero. After this, a couple of years would pass, and you know, the UA would have, or Class 1A would have been, you know, having a little bit of a memorial for their lost comrades in battle, as you know, the Pussycats would have died as well, and you know, Deku would have actually gone on to become the greatest hero of all time, being Black Panther, the shadow hero who can save anybody. As you know, he would have actually ended up marrying Momo in this course of events, as Momo and Deku would have actually ended up having a child, and the child's name would end up actually being I'm not even gonna lie, I have no clue. Let me look up random name generator. Let's go ahead and check it out. Let's see what we can find. You guys are gonna be with me. It's okay, let's see what we're gonna generate. Name? Oh, ew. Let's go with, what's Momo and Deku go to? Moko? Moko. Oh no. Demo? Nah. No. His name is not Deku. It's Izuka. They would have had a daughter named Izuka Midoriya, and she would have actually gone on to go to the mountains, learn Sage Mode, and carry on the torch for her father. And this is where we're going to be wrapping up our story of what if Deku had Panther Sage Mode. I hope you guys enjoyed its amazing run on the channel, and I hope you guys actually are pretty satisfied with this ending, since I decided that this was actually going to be the ending all along. This is what I had planned for it, and you know, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys thought that it was going to have more of the happier one, but no, this is something that I wanted to try out, see something new. That being said, guys, let me know what you guys thought about the video. But with that being said, it has been your boy Zether, and I am out.